Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the internet and of YouTube. Welcome to Jibber Jabber. I am your host, as always, Arma, otherwise known as Tone Shift. With me today, we have just shy of a full house. First up, we have Darkness, situated over in the British corner.
Hello.
We have Tom117Z, also in the British corner.
Hello.
Hanging out on Tom's head, if I can find him, we have Small Tux.
Guess who's back?
Yeah,
Again.
been a while since he's been in here. Let's see.
Out of hibernation comes the meme lord.
Yeah, let's hear. Next up, we have in the background Paladin, who is staring into your soul.
Any without cover is without hope.
Indeed.
Or however that goes.
Next, we have, glaring at him in disappointment, we have a Soviet starfish.
I almost didn't make it today.
He's on
But
his
your
phone
audio
right now.
has changed.
Yeah, he's on his phone right now. That'll hopefully change a bit later. And last, but certainly not least, we have Hades, who is also here.
Yep.
The
So-
mighty bringer of the ark.
So, yes, how's everyone's last couple weeks been? It's been a while since we sat down for one of these.
Besides drove one of my group leaders crazy, pretty good.
I went to a Comic-Con and it was a good experience up there in Albuquerque. But
Albuquerque. I'm sorry.
oh gosh.
Did you take a wrong
Ah,
turn?
yes.
Yes.
Weird Al.
But I went there with my parents, and the worst thing ever is explaining to your parents what a furry is.
Oh.
Oh.
So my mom, bless her heart,
Dun,
she's so
dun.
innocent.
Duh.
My mom looks at one of the first sonas or whatever and goes, "Ooh, what character is that one from?" And I just looked and I went, that is what we call an OC. We don't we'll just walk away. That's the best thing to do right now. But yeah, it was good. It was good times. Met a lot of OC, not OC, a lot of cosplayers and everywhere. It was very nice. And yeah, besides explaining furries, it was a good time.
Nice.
Hey, Tux. Did you get any numbers?
Oh, God.
What?
Seriously.
I don't get
What
it.
is he? What is he on about?
I don't get it.
What the?
Paladin, what are you on about? Explain.
Did you get anybody's phone number there?
Oh, that.
No. Why?
I think
I don't know.
he's asking if you got that furry tail.
That's why it's going on now. Come on. You had to sort it out.
Just
We
because
don't
I'm
need
not
it.
your bullshit today, boy.
You can make
No, here's the problem. Here's the problem, though. A lot of furries did approach me, but the problem was my costume. I decided to go as a Lucario.
Oh, gee.
Oh.
Oh, no.
And-
And it all makes sense.
Even see, the problem is, freaking Lucario is my favorite Pokemon, but in the furry fandom, he's also very popular, and I learned the hard way.
They dig it,
Oh, no.
and
Yeah.
now
So,
you dug
did you
yourself
I
a
had-
hole.
Did you have
I had to take so many pictures. Like, it was stupid how much I had to take. And freaking my name was non-existent. I was just Lucario that day. That's what everyone called me.
So, I guess some of the people trying to catch a Lucario.
No,
Let me see.
It got
Let
so
me see what your mind
when I was
thought.
buying, it got so bad that when I was buying a T-shirt, someone whispered into my ear, "If I see you again, I'm gonna catch you." I went, "What?"
I was about to say,
But
did
you
somebody
are
throw a
like a
Pokeball?
child.
Please tell me somebody threw a
So to
Pokeball.
no.
answer, to
No,
answer your question, Paladin, I think he did get that furry tail.
No. No.
He's a minor.
Okay.
You see, the problem. No, to answer your question about if I ever got a Pokeball thrown at me, yes, but not at Comic Con. You
Funny
see,
thing,
it
he's
was
16,
during
so in the UK he wouldn't be considered a minor.
Let's
was during-
see.
it was during Halloween, and I was with a friend named Garrett, And Garrett, he's a funny man, but sometimes he takes it a little too far. So I'm in the middle of playing Super Smash Bros. In the game room at our college. And so in the middle of playing, I get freaking domed by a ball. That crap hurt like right in the ear, and freaking I fall off the couch. I come back up, and Garrett's just sitting across the room with this shit-eating grin. Freaking, I'm like, bro, what the heck is wrong with you? He's like, dude, you're rare.
Did you throw it back at him?
You should have said, dude, you're a shiny.
No, shiny Lucario sucks.
Well, let's see.
What about
All I can say is, going through your mind, processing, my first com, what should I dress up as? I know, I dress up as my favorite Pokemon.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Oh,
I mean,
they did regret.
both my times at Everfree Northwest, I didn't cosplay as anything. I just went as me.
No, the problem was they had a furry fan. They had it was a furry fandom thing, and it was weird because it was I went there because on Saturday there was the Pokemon voice actors that were there.
Hey,
So
Tone.
Brock, Misty, and Ash, and I think someone else. And
Hey,
after
Tone.
that was Carl Weathers, who plays Apollo Creed in the Rocky films. But right before those two, they had a furry fandom, the furry fandom New Mexico meeting. And right before we're going into the auditorium type, the doors open up and we're waiting, and we see a single file line of personas coming out. They had an army, bro. They're assembling.
They're gonna
It's
take
like a
over the
militia.
world. I can guarantee you that. They outnumber even us preppers 10-1.
Hey, calm
They
down,
have a
calm down.
militia.
It's not as weird. Okay, as weird as that is I still think it's not as weird as a DMD session with fairies. Is it?
Fair enough.
That was just trippy for me.
Also, I'm glad we have everyone in here that's currently in here. There's only one person I wish that was here that isn't, and that's Lumina, because I was having a shower thought, and it hit me.
Oh no.
An idea for an idiocy verse story.
I don't like where this is going.
No. Hear me out. We use all of our avatars that we use for this podcast. They're their own separate thing, and they sit down for a nice lunch, only to be interrupted by the actual us somehow ending up there and going to the same restaurant. Chaos ensues.
Why does this remind me of just how it should have ended the superheroes in the cafe afterwards?
Yes.
Can I get hit by that tree again?
Also, Tux falls through the fucking roof because
Small.
fuck them kids.
What?
I think I will pass on that.
As I was saying, Blank or Tone. God damn it.
Blank ain't here, bitch.
Yeah, I know. Tone, you didn't go as yourself. You went as an author.
No, I went as myself.
It's
Yeah.
an author.
Does
Sense.
He is an author, but therefore he is
I'm more
himself.
I'm more-
all I'm
He's
saying,
expressing
if any
himself.
of y'all end up going to the same convention that I ever go to, you will very obviously know who I am. I will make sure of that.
Well,
you be
until
the one
the day I
that-
get enough
He's
money, that won't be
this is gonna be
happening.
Soviet. He's gonna be walking around in like freaking Spetsnaz gear
No,
with the
I'm gonna
Russian
wear-
with the
I'm gonna wear my
USSR national
normal
anthem
street clothes.
blaring
The
in the
only-
speaker.
I'm going to wear my normal street clothes. The only difference is I'm getting one of those Antillen style assault helmets and a fucking balaclava.
No. You know what Soviet's gonna look like if he goes to a con? He's gonna look like Tachanka from Rainbow Six. That's what he's gonna look like. He's gonna dress up as the Lord and Savior Tachanky Kang himself.
You think
Lord head
the
ass.
thing is, you fool! You think I won't spend $150 just for one of those helmets? You're not.
You already have spent $150.
What about Nikolai from Black Ops?
Oh God, no!
What's the name? What's the name of that fat guy from GTA San Andreas?
Big Smoke.
Big Smoke.
Big Smoke.
Get a number 9.
Ooh, number 9. Number 9 large.
A number 6 with
extra dip.
A number 7.
Stop!
245s.
Is that where that comes from?
One with
Yes.
That's from San Andreas. How do you not know
Nice.
this?
That's my
Again.
favorite.
I've heard
Brad
that
Pitt
joke
auto
and like I've heard parodies of that joke. I never knew where it actually originated from.
Well,
Oh, that's one of my favorite
anyways,
ones.
that's what Soviets should go to a convention as.
No.
Yes.
Why
I
not?
can't do that. I'm not black.
I am.
Oi.
Fuck!
No, what
I
he should.
am so
No, what he should go
God
as
damn it, man!
is-
Make yourself black.
No,
No.
no,
I don't wanna.
no, Soviet.
What?
What you should go as is the main character from the Metro series.
You read Artium?
RTM, yes, that one.
Okay.
Anyway, this has been a very long
First
introduction.
session.
We haven't got to the first topic yet.
We've
Yes.
kind of just segued into improv here, is what we've done.
Yeah.
Well, we only have
It's
2.
great to be back after 5 weeks of absence.
It wasn't.
And not
Five? I thought it was like round 3 or 2.
Bro,
It was- it was
We
longer.
haven't done this since like early December.
No, it's been.
Pretty sure.
Well, I can prove it by just checking the last.
I haven't been here in months.
Pax hasn't been here
You-
for a while. The last
you've
episode of
just-
Jibber Jabber we recorded was on the 12th of January.
Ah, yes, the one that I couldn't make it to because I was
So
at
about
a
a month.
family dinner again.
Yeah, a little under a
Hmm.
month since the last time we did this, so about 4 weeks.
So, start us off with the first topic then.
So yeah, segueing out of that impromptu and unexpected improvisation, but hey, I ain't complaining, more conversation is good. We have, of course, our FFD6 recap to get through.
Woohoo!
Multiple, in fact.
Yeah, because we've had a few sessions since
Great.
last time. Part of the reason why we haven't had a Jibber Jabber in a while is because a lot of those sessions went well over normal time. So,
I'm surprised I recover from my laughing fit.
well, where we last left off with the FFD6 recap, the party had been directed to supposedly deliver a parcel to a isolated group, an encampment outside of the desert city of Kurzatan, the home of one of our party members, Thanatos. Upon arrival at this supposed campsite, they discovered that it was devoid of inhabitants. There were no one there. There was a bunch of rotting meat in the back of the cave that was used to shelter the camp from the blistering heat of the sun, and the camp itself had long been abandoned. And then a great big young sand behemoth came upon the scene, and very unimpressed by finding intruders in its territory, went into a rage and engaged the party in battle. A prolonged boss battle ensued, during which a lot of back and forth happened. Some badass things also went down, before finally, Rocket got the killing blow by jumping up into the air and using her rocket boosters, her wings, and her beak to essentially drill into the back of the behemoth's neck and burst out the front of its throat, causing its whole head to just be stabbed off, essentially. It was brutal, it was grotesque, it was bloody as all hell. It was fucking awesome because I'm contractually obligated to say that because Lumina is my girlfriend. But
You sounded
I sounded what?
I got to read those terms and conditions.
Yeah. Well, anyways. Following that, the party linked back up with Fane Pharaoh, the elven contact they have in Kurzatan, who is sort of serving as a dubious, shifty double agent of sorts, helping them while at the same time trying to maintain appearances of helping Chakal and the Vinaldi family. She confirmed, after observing and examining the parcel that they had been given to deliver, that it seems as if they had been lured into a trap with the intent of killing them, seeing as someone somewhere must have recognized them or figured out in some capacity that they were not ones that the Vinaldis wanted around. But, having defeated the behemoth, this posed an opportunity. Fane Pharaoh was sent back to Kurzatan while the rest of the party sought out a cave to hunker down in and wait in. And while Fane was gone, Mika and Rocket took a brief detour to a nearby village called Aquadust to sell off some shit they got from the behemoth to restock the group's gil supply. So they went from having 20 to over 5,000. because behemoth horns are fucking expensive, as it so happens. And then, as they all hunkered down, waited in the cave, and eventually a collection of individuals from the Vinaldi family were sent to extract the party and bring them back, coming in the form of a dual-wield, two-dagger-wielding thief-like lady named Sarah Smeal, or Sarah Meal, as I actually have her listed. I was saying Saurus all this session, but it was supposed to be Sarah.
Bitch.
Yeah. Total masochistic bitch, sadistic, masochistic, all that shit. Along with a bunch of Bongan thugs, one of which was named Koth, who apparently she was fuck buddies with. Who knew? I did, but, you know.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
Neat.
So,
Total bitch didn't necessarily deserve having that.
right. Well, anyways, after a bloody confrontation, so all of Saurus's allies were taken down, and she was knocked out and taken hostage by the party. Thanatos attempted an interrogation, but upon discovering her masochism, learned that most of his methods of interrogation would prove absolutely useless. Because
She took all my fun.
she likes pain, and his main means of interrogation is to make his victims either be in pain or fear imminent pain. And
It worked so well with that guy in Marasu.
anyways, he was just about ready to call off the entire interrogation because they weren't getting anything when finally,
I was honestly just going to cut her head off and in frustration.
right, when suddenly, as he is wont to do, Caius turned up, Thanatos' master, using his weird cryptic magic to stop time around them, and gave Thanatos a bit of instruction, resulting in the first use of one of Thanatos' limit abilities, Dominate, which allowed him to place a magic brand on Sarah, which in turn caused her to more or less become compelled by him. He is capable of issuing commands, and she is obligated, she is compelled to follow them, obey his commands.
To anyone who's played Lord of the Rings, Shadows of Mordor, I basically did that.
Yeah, kind of.
And his name is literally Italian, so
Yeah, that's where he. I mean, I didn't recognize the name when he presented it.
Because you never played the game.
Right.
Submit to me.
Yes, submit to me. Suffer me now.
Right.
Yep.
So yeah.
There's loads.
So Sarah was afflicted with that, and Thanatos, came up with the instruction of bringing her back to Kurzatan, and then allowing her to allowing her superiors to come find her, because she doesn't know where they are herself unless they come get her. So she returns to Kurzatan. Her superiors will want to know what happened, so they will come to her, and Thanatos and the group intend to pounce when that happens. It wasn't all happy-go-lucky as the party was making their return trip to Kurzatan, Sarah in tow, as the rest of the party, minus Rocket, were very upset that was the extent Thanatos had resorted to. Neothil especially took great exception to that method.
She kept glaring at me.
She scolded you is what she did.
And
I wasn't impressed either.
Use your own words against you.
Yeah. There was a prolonged sort of, there was a sort of off and on prolonged debate during the day-long trip back to the city. Halfway through the journey, the party was accosted by a swarm of angry magic bombs that they had to deal with.
Which Alice said decided it was a good idea to go and poke at close range.
Yeah, that went well. Well, anyways, upon defeating the bombs, the party finally made it back to Kurzatan, and with a bit of clever planning, were able to slip inside without drawing any attention to themselves from the guards at the gate, whereupon they allowed Sarah to pull a little ahead before following along, and Nee took a moment to talk to Sarah within the confines of her home in the Mudhole district of Kurzatan. Learned one or two small things about her, namely that she was an orphan who grew up on the streets and highly respects power and believes Chakal has the most power in the whole city.
Made a few uncomfortable comparisons between Chakal and her and Caius and Thanatos.
Indeed. Before, finally, the party got themselves settled down in a nearby alley to wait for said superiors to finally make their appearance, and that was where we ended. So, My players, do you guys have anything you wish to point out that I didn't cover? Anything you wish to expand on or speculate? Anything at all? Anything you wish to
And he
say?
took my shot.
This motherfucker. Like, one of the bombs, like, when the beast bombs die, they automatically get off a decently powerful attack that can do a fair bit of damage. When one was on low health, I was in range to kill it, and I had like a shield over me which would absorb all damage. So I was the prime candidate to do it because its reflex wouldn't do anything. But here comes Darkness going, no, I wanna do it.
You wanted to play golf
No,
with
I wanna
do
it.
I just want to play golf boom.
Yeah. For context, for anyone who doesn't know, bombs in the Final Fantasy series are fire elemental aspected enemies that have a bad tendency of self-destructing when they get low on hit points, often doing a crap load of damage. They also, generally speaking, as I said, are fire elemental based, and so have a tendency to throw around a lot of fire spells. They are often rather annoying because of the ridiculously high damage they do when they blow up. But other than that, they're generally speaking not too big of a problem.
Nee threatened to teach him discipline by when they get back to Alvatea. She's gonna forcibly enroll him in the junior guard, which in my mind is equivalent to like the scouts.
I just wanted to play whack-a-boom.
Yeah, and you did a whack and you did a boom.
Yay!
Unfortunately, you came out of it with third-degree burns.
Yeah. Hey, you could at least say I helped you out by throwing myself in front of Mika before it took hit. Like, no! Ah!
I'll give you that one, because as Nee said, better you than her.
It was funny.
Still gonna teach you.
And the only reason why you got that hit in first is because the PC decided to lag.
Wait, what'd I do?
Do you have anything to add?
What did I
Anything to
do?
talk about?
I mean,
I like how
honestly,
you instantly assumed you were in trouble.
I mean, I can't really add on into this other than the typical I hate Tom for making us go through this because those are really annoying enemies.
As Tom
And the
said,
fact
like a
that
broken
we were
record.
still pretty low from our last fight, at least in terms of magic. And most of our spells didn't do all that much to these types of enemies. Somebody needs to pick up a water spell or something.
All I have is water resistant armor. Or a shield, actually.
Just throw a water bottle at the enemy. That'll get him.
It was just... eh. And
Yeah.
at the end there, I was almost tempted just to spite Tom to go in for a close range melee attack.
Fuck, you're good. Yeah.
It would have been funny, but I decided.
I mean, could you blame me? I donk him, it deals more damage than Dia.
No, it's not donk, it's bonk.
Bonk.
Or bap.
All kinds.
They bapped him.
Or like that. And then Lumina
Yeah,
comes up
bonk,
with a
bonk.
new mini game that Tone is probably going to be coerced.
I would love
into
that.
making.
I would love it if they pull it off.
Of what we call bomb golf.
Oh,
Whack-a-bomb. It was
Oh,
whack-a-bomb.
Whack-a-bomb. Whack-a-bomb. The
No, it's
dangerous game where you fight for your life.
Whack
I
a
wanna-
bomb.
It's
I
a
wanna
game where you
play
play.
whack-a-bomb.
It's a game where you play golf with bombs, trying to hit a very specific location. If you miss, you get hurt.
That sounds like a blast.
You sound like Lumina just saying that.
You.
Ooh!
Yeah, she's missing out on this.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
playing Final Fantasy 14 right now.
Yeah, but
this is-
currently, Nee is not in a happy place right now. She
No,
is
no.
very
Yeah,
sick of
yeah.
Hesitan.
No one is happy with Curse of Tan.
I
Hesitan
think
is a
that-
shit show.
Not even me.
well, I think that might be it, unless anyone else.
Well, they're saying that there's a few uncomfortable crashes. Like, it was Thanatos who kind of pointed out about her. I keep forgetting her name. Follows me. Terrible
Just
names.
call her the masochist bitch.
The masochist bitch. But yeah, like he pointed out, like how Shakal kind of scooped her up off the streets as an orphan and molded her into what he needed her to be, and Nee kind of noted a slight comparison there with Caius, who scooped an orphan Thanatos off the street and has been molding him into what he needs him to be. Particularly with like the whole thing with Nee, like I wanted at the end to have like ask Mika whether she was being a bit too hard on him, because she's kind of a bit of war of herself, because the reason she's reacting so multiple reasons. One, it's because of her upbringing in Batea and the fact that she's meant to uphold the law, and she's a lawful good morality character, so it's not really computing well with her. And also with her old background and the fact that she might have some darker visions herself, and the whole are you what you choose to be, or are you what you're made of, sort of thing. Plus, harkening back to their conversation on the bridge, where Thanatos himself encouraged her to be what she wants to be, rather than what she is.
Huge callback.
Yeah.
And I suppose me just mentioning about like what happened when we find the seed of the plague.
No, she's at the end. Like, she's really worried that like out of all the group, probably the one she considers her closest friend, because of the whole conversation and the whole relating over bullshit, will continue down a dark path and be molded by Caius into something that could be slightly villainous later on. Like, that's her fear. And also coming back, like, if that happens, it'll also be, well, he ended up doing that because ultimately that's what he's been made to be. Then what does that mean for Nee, whatever her backstory is? So many prongs of fear from her.
Yeah, Rocket's arc was very clear cut, very kind of, black and white with the moral compass here. Now we got Thanatos shit, and we've got characters having intense internal moral dilemmas.
Well, you
Yeah.
see,
And I didn't even intend for that. I was expecting it to all be black and white, but then this shit happened. I'm like,
see-
yeah, I like it.
But you see, the difference between the whole Rocket's arc and this one is Rocket, we had a clear idea of like where we wanted to go. Is like, okay, so how do we find Deviant Corp? Okay, find these communicators, find me 2 of them, I can make you a deal to find it. Cool, we found them. Got the deal. We found where Deviant Corp was. All right, where's the director? Rocket says he's on level 3. So we have to go all the way down to level 3. With Kurzatan, we don't know where the big boss is. And apparently nobody knows except the number 2 guy. Nobody knows where he is. So it's just a constant deal of trying to find out where the bad guys actually are.
And the methods that Thanatos employed there with Caius pushing him to do it, it's kind of like, it's morally dubious and threatens to, like, do we become them in order to defeat them, and using the excuse of, well, it was necessary, which is a very slippery slope, because that's the very same excuse Deviant Corp itself used, and others like Saran also used.
True. Although we did kill a lot of guys in Deviant Corp.
Sorry, we said you cut out there.
You said
we killed a lot of guys in Deviant Corp.
Yeah.
I mean, in Deviant Corp, like, a lot of it, the guards that attacked us, we fought back and killed against. But if you recall, every single non-combatant we ran into, we gave a massive scolding to, a massive speech, to the point where we had to skip over it because we did so many times. And let them go, told them where the Stargazer was, and let them go, since it was their only chance of salvation. But they'd go straight to the brig, but they'd be alive. However, none of them made it, because Murasan decided to go do a Kamehameha.
Well, not really a Kamehameha, more like a... I wouldn't
More
say...
like, I'm a nuke you.
It's worth
He
pointing.
pulled a boot.
It's worth pointing out they weren't actually killed by his limit break. They were too far
yeah,
away.
They
But
just
something killed them. That's the thing. And you
Probably
be-
the
They were
abominations in
killed
the
by the
forest.
abominations that he had in the forest. The ones that weren't the amorphous fleshy things that weren't in the facility at the time.
I'm about to say the ones that we didn't kill.
Yeah, there were plenty
Yeah,
out there in the forest that you guys didn't
the
bump
thing is,
into.
we only can count one group, and it's just slightly amazing to me that there were literally dozens of people we sent out. Not one of them made it, sprinting at full speed, going in all sorts of directions. So bloody many of them, not a single one made it. Like, that's slightly off to me, but
I guess they're like the bloody velociraptors from the Lost World.
I mean, they weren't like
I mean, they just ambush and they're fast little fuckers.
And you also got to keep in mind the scientists were not combatants at any stretch of the imagination.
Well, we knew
Hmm.
that.
I mean, we saw what happened to the one in the elevator.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Although
but the thing is,
although
at
that
the
was
end
a
of the
hard
day,
mission.
though, like our conscience are somewhat cleared out because we gave them like the only chance they had of surviving that because the base was going to explode one way or another. Like they were not.
Although if I can just go back to DB Corp for a second, my favorite part of that whole arc was when we literally just walked up to the entrance of DB Corp and Mika just said, why don't we just knock on the door? we did. And then had that Thor moment where I just destroyed both turrets and did a shit ton of damage to everybody. And then everybody else just kind of screwed him over.
It was a pretty awesome entrance, and the fact that knocking on the door worked is something I'm still surprised by.
Obviously, when you mentioned that, you said that you were just kidding.
Yeah, Mika was just joking. I wasn't expecting Rocket to actually do it.
I mean, it was too perfect not to, though.
Okay.
Still, as a DM, you never intended any one of those Diva Corp scientists to survive, did you?
No.
You ruthless bastard.
I mean, that was completely out of our hands. We gave a clear opportunity, but ultimately the DM wasn't revengeful, angry dickhead of a god. So,
Well, anyways,
Right.
so yeah.
He requires sacrifices.
So, do the other three people in this call and this episode have anything to say about what we've been discussing thus far?
Not really.
I have an idea of, you see, knowing this party, I have an idea that the next session is going to go down very poorly. I fully expect for the session to start off with the higher-ups showing up and just fucking executing the bitch, because they know what happened.
That's a possibility. If the higher up even shows up, we were told that it was just going to be a representative.
yeah, he sends representatives. We want to
Now,
cast the
if
representatives.
now-
So
now
we
my
find the second.
An arrow
And
to
then-
the throat.
No, if number 2 actually shows up, it's going to be very bad considering we're still technically not at full power.
Well, we're all at full health. It's just, and we're all
And magic wise.
MP, and I don't use MP anyway. So, mundane as it is.
Because you're an elf that shoots crossbows at people.
And I'm very good at shooting crossbows at people. Thank you very much.
Sure. And then an occasional stabbing in the leg whenever you decide to get up in melee range.
Go Tom.
Also, you do have one of those daggers we took from that bitch that does extra to humanoids, so that'll be a nice little boon.
Yep.
Yeah.
What I'm ultimately waiting on is the days that
Bye.
Tom picks up the dual wielding 2-weapon training thing, if he ever decides to do that. Because I've always had it in my head that at like Knee's peak, she wields a crossbow and a dagger at the same time and just dual wields them.
So,
Yeah, that'd be fun.
No. By the time the character reaches that point, moves on from crossbow to gun.
I mean,
See,
she's
we-
already had the option, but she stuck with the crossbow. Like
I'm
there
about
was
to
a sniper rifle that I could have technically had the option of taking from a guy
then she
we
broke
fought,
it.
but I mean, I jammed my knife down the barrel, and when he shot it, it exploded in his hands.
Yeah.
He did not save the op.
There is always more gun in the world.
I mean, she
It's a powerful
she
sniper.
admires the ingenuity of the ranged weapon of a firearm. Like she quite likes Fane's weapon. And may I also add that Nee finds Fane sort of sexy, and if she wasn't with Mika, she'd probably hit on her.
You don't know if she swings it, but no, here. You know what?
She's very
Oh,
committed.
my.
Mika doesn't need to worry. She's very committed to Mika, but she does kind of find Fane to be attractive.
You know what? Nee needs a gun.
Good old fashioned 3-way.
Enough reminiscing.
But yes,
A gun blade.
the point
Finish.
of
Oh
Nee-
no, 2
Nee
for the
in-
price of fun.
Nee likes the ideas of firearms and like is interested in the ingenuity behind them, but she is very much a crossbow kind of girl. She likes
Traditionalist.
does.
Gun
Fair
blade.
enough.
All right.
It's kind of
Gun
part of
blade.
the health, I guess.
Guns.
You know, it's a shame that they don't have the gun Lancer, Gunbreaker. I can't remember
I
the name
don't
of the
know.
class.
I really
Yeah.
wanted to join the campaign because I had a cool idea for a character, but I don't know if the weapon I would have chosen would be allowed.
What type of weapon?
What?
It's a Mauser K98, the fucking World War I rifle with a 2-foot fucking barrel.
I
Well, you
mean,
could have
I
a
know what you're
rifle
talking
like
about.
that.
I mean, the world has guns, but more on a magic-wise rather.
You could have a special custom rifle.
I would
Right.
probably allow you to have a weapon that was similar, but it wouldn't be like a direct 1-for-1.
Exactly.
I mean, you would
Custom.
probably. I mean, chances are what it would amount to is you would probably just use Magitech guns, is what it would amount to. I mean, back
Yeah.
when Blank was originally planning to be part of the campaign, he was playing a Moogle who dual wielded flintlock pistols. Every time he
And
fired
now
one,
he's
every time he would fire one, he would do a backflip because of the kickback. because
But,
Moogles are like teddy bear sized.
Right, but I didn't know what limitation on the kind of firearms you had.
It
Because
varies.
again,
It varies on setting because the thing about how weapons in Final Fantasy D6 works is you don't have specific weapons. You have weapon categories. You have blade, reach, range, arcane, brawl, blunt, huge, concealed, etc. And these different types of weapons have different properties, but the aesthetic of them is something that I pretty much leave wholly up to the players. So a sword and a scythe are both blade weapons. They are statistically identical. It's the aesthetic and the flair around them and maybe some mild utility, some superficial stuff that's different. So
Right.
so a
Basically saying
crossbow and a gun are statistically identical. It's a matter of the flair around them.
Style points.
I will say, I wouldn't. I would like to have you, Soviet, but personally,
We're too
this
far.
is
in
nothing
at this
against
point.
you. Yeah, we're too far.
Exactly.
I wouldn't be privy to a new player joining because our player dynamic is pretty much set, and we are incredibly far in.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Like-
especially since I want my character to be more of like a not up front and personal, more of a fucking sniper
Right.
or a marksman.
Well, if
Like
we
the
decide,
Chris
well,
Kyle.
once we finish up this campaign, if we decide to do another, we'd be happy to have you. But that's still probably a long ways out. So
Yeah, like right
Well,
now,
my
your
hope
character
is
would be
after
down
this,
that field.
after like the FFD6, maybe move on to a normal D&D campaign, one where we could use the actual D&D races.
I mean, there were various ideas thrown around. One of them was a Mass Effect one.
And
Oh,
thanks to a
God.
crazy friend of mine, MLP.
Yeet.
all right. Well, I think that's pretty much it for the FFD6 recap. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right
See.
then. All right then. So on to the second topic, which Soviet has a story for us relating to Arma and Halo, apparently.
Yes, Arma 3 has a series of mods called Operation Trebuchet. It is basically a Halo universe asset mod for Arma 3, and its main time is the pre-Halo Human Covenant War, kind of that insurrection phase. But people have slowly expanded on the mods. They've added First Contact, which adds in the Covenant, mainly the elites.
I mean, to be fair,
If you
first
great-
contact in a mod should just amount to fire, burning, and human screaming.
Right.
That's exactly
The mod unfortunately got kind of crippled because one of the major moderators left, and he decided to be an asshole and copyright all of his fucking assets, and he won't release them to anyone. So they're slowly recovering from that, and it's back to a playable state. Essentially, we've had several sessions using it, and they've all been different settings. The ones I'm going to be talking about are fun ones. I'll start off with today's because it was the shortest. Today's operation took place during the insurrection era, so pre-Human Covenant War, and we were all colonial police forces enforcing martial law on a planet that was on the brink of having its own insurrection. That was fun, because me and about 5 others, we all decided to group up into one big squad of police officers. We got into the trucks, and our dispatch guy hits us up, and he's like, "Hey, we're having a bit of a dispute that might turn riot at one of the local mines. We need you to go pacify that." So
What do you mean by pacify?
You'll find out in a minute.
Okay.
So we roll up in our 2 fucking heavily armored warthogs. All 8 of us pile out. We walk up to the mine manager. He looks at us. He's like, "Yeah, none of my fucking workers want to go and operate the machinery. I need you to disperse whatever the fuck they think they're doing over here." And our leader, I don't know his name, but we'll just call him
Toby.
off due to his fucking tag and Arma. He goes up to start talking to the mine manager. We all file out and try to separate the workers so that we can figure out what's going on. And then a fucking rifle shot nails one of our officers, Larry, in the fucking shoulder.
Oh.
From the rooftop, and we all scatter. We're trying to get the, quote, civilians out of the way. The mine manager got domed in the fucking forehead. And as soon as they called it in, I watched as the guy that I was about to start talking to pull a pistol out of his holster, and I dumped about 15 fucking rounds into his chest.
Jesus Christ.
Well,
as a proper officer of the law does.
As a proper
sadly,
officer.
that's about right here in America.
What weapon were you using? Like the MA-35?
Well, unfortunately, we didn't have access to the Magnum pistol, which disappointed us. We had access to the Halo assault rifle, but we had to use like a normal 45 pistol.
You should
have
use
access
a
to the
revolver
Magnum because it's technically a military weapon.
Is there a
use
BXR?
revolver because there are civilian grade of revolvers. Like for example, in one of the Halo comics, a reporter called Petra pulls out a revolver and domes a Sangheili with it.
Well, again, we'd love to use those, but those were part of Trebuchet pre-moderator split.
I mean, I'm
So
talking about
the
a normal
asshole that
revolver,
made
like a
them-
very normal, standard-looking revolver, nothing particularly Halo branded.
Again, we weren't using mods that had those. We had a very space age looking 45 caliber pistol. So we ended up using those, and again, I shot a dude 15 fucking times because he pulled a gun.
Wow.
And we ended up about 6 of the 8 civilians, including the guy that called us there, ended up dead. One of them got arrested for suspicion of partaking in illegal activities, and the other stole one of our fucking cop cars, got 2 feet down the road, and then flipped it against a tree. And we arrested his ass, and we ended up capturing one of the insurgents' radios off of him. And I'm sitting there, I pick it up, and I'm like, oh, civilians are allowed to carry radios. This is probably just a work one. And as soon as I pick it up, I hear, yeah, so we're going to move on to the farm next. God has deemed, the gods have deemed our path righteous. We now have explosives.
So I take it all the insurrectionists were played by other players.
All
Mission
of the
success.
insurrectionists were played by higher-ranking members on the server, on the group I play with, that reserved the civilian slots. And they chose whatever they wanted to do. They had the choice of just being normal civilians, being members of the press and media, or insurrectionists. It was up to the civilians what we did. And apparently the civilians got a hold of fucking explosives, so boogaloo time. After that,
It's fine. In like a year,
after we, neutralize, after we captured the guy, we figured out he's an insurrectionist. So we took him to the jail, and I had to fucking escort him from our commandeered civilian warthog because he flipped ours. From the bed of the warthog into the jail cell, and then I had to sit and watch him for the allotted jail time that they set for the civilians, which is like 2 minutes. And then he kept doing fucking uwu speak the entire time. And I calmly get on my radio, step out of the room to where I could still see him, get on my character's radio, and I'm like, yo, Larry? Yeah, I need the tenderizer. The tenderizer being what I called a fucking maglite, because I was about to beat a man into submission, but neither of us had one. So I couldn't do that.
He flips the car. Oh no!
But
Probably
after
met-
that,
I probably met
apparently
him at the
Larry was
Comic-Con.
occupied talking to one of the civilian role players who is a member of the media, asking what happened at the mine. He downplayed what actually happened from a insurrection group fucking almost killing an entire squadron of police to, oh yeah, we just had a minor incident down at the mine, a couple of shots fired, everyone's fine. You know, standard UNSC downplaying of actual events, as we've seen from Halo lore.
It's all downplayed until your
See,
planet's
censorship is the
Exactly.
best thing to do.
And then, as we watched, one of the special SWAT officers fucking hit and run a civilian that was coming to pick up the guy that was getting let out of jail. And we essentially, our squad, because we had a shots fired incident 5 minutes into the fucking event, we got put on sentry watch at a spaceport. And we went there. Everything was fine. I had a casual conversation about my actual job with one of the players because he was curious about it. And then all but two of us got called away because we had a bigger incident in one of the apartment complexes where all of the civilian role players decided to gather up in one location, and it was boogaloo time.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, no, we were apparently a couple of guys that were going to get assigned to a police squad because they had joined after the start of the event. They were using an ambulance and they got lit the fuck up from an apartment complex. So the last thing I knew that happened was it was nighttime. The insurrectionists were actively engaging the police. And then I had to go to a family dinner, and that's where that one ends. But I have more Halo stories on different events that I've done with the Ignis Corps, as they call themselves.
The Covenant yet?
Neat.
Oh, we have. That was my second time doing Halo Ops with them.
How badly did you get an ass whooping?
Essentially, the second operation that I did, moving on to my second story, this takes place post-Human Covenant War, but the insurrections are starting again on different planets. So we're sent to, scout out and locate some missing supplies and a squad of ODSTs that they lost contact with. Lo and behold, we clear out the first insurrection compound, and we found some of the stolen supplies. Turns out they were nuclear weapons.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
The nukes.
Not big ones, like little tiny ones, but still.
A nuke's a nuke.
Nuclear weapons.
And
also,
is the Havoc, and it's big.
Also, to our surprise, the insurrectionists had hired Covenant mercenaries. So they had a bunch of fucking elites backing them up.
Oh.
We chalked it up to, okay, maybe it was just this group, and we've probably located all of the supplies. We move on to the next town, or to the next area. It was like a coastal fort from the early days of colonization, chocked to the brim with insurgents and more Covenant. We clear them out. We start looking for more of the missing supplies. Lo and behold, they had the bigger space nukes. Big fuck off canisters that are about the size of a 55-gallon drum barrel.
Did they raid a Halcyon or something?
Apparently, apparently we had a smaller supply transport frigate crash, and the ODSTs were sent in to investigate. One of the recon teams went missing, and then we heard about the potential of supplies being missing. So they sent in our group, which were more ODSTs, and we also had the fucking I forget what they called the protocol, but it's basically no witnesses, civilian or enemy alike.
Damn.
Were you only employed?
Pip, the guy that sets up all of our Halo ops, that particular mission, he was playing a Oni officer.
That explains a lot. Because if you don't know Halo but know Mass Effect, Oni is essentially their version of Cerberus.
Oh no, I know what Oni is. It's the space CIA.
Oh, is that more? Is less the space CIA, more the human supremacist shadow group who pretends to be part of the law, but also would commit mass genocide, do terrible, unethical experimentations, and are generally horrible people.
Yeah,
and the leader is currently
that's correct. But I ended up getting split from my group for a good while, and I got stuck with some other people. During this particular op, we had a non-existent Spartan asset. It was played by a group member by the name of Tails, and Tails didn't like me at all. I didn't like him either. I got shot by the Spartan multiple times during this event. And he was talking mad shit to me one of these times, and he's just like, What are you gonna fucking do about it? I'm a Spartan. Me and 3 other people from my squad all pull out the fucking missile launchers. And he's like, I see. We ended up,
I see that you're currently in it.
On to one of the really big city on the map where the last of the nukes were located, since the Spartan quote unquote interrogated a insurrection lieutenant. We're not going into the detail there.
Probably a Thanatos style. I take it this guy was specifically a Spartan 4.
Yes.
I beg your pardon?
Your usual style of interrogation.
Essentially, we started moving into the town from multiple areas, and then our fucking Spartan gets yeeted down a street after getting hit by something. And lo and behold, the insurrectionists managed to get their hands on a grizzly. If you don't know what a grizzly is in Halo lore, essentially in Halo Wars, there is a sergeant by the name of Sergeant Forge, and he liked to experiment with UNSC equipment.
No, let me put it this way. Let me try and explain it. He saw a tank. So a tank's cool. What if I add more guns to it?
Essentially, it is a modified Scorpion tank that has 2 main cannon barrels and a shit ton of missile pods, depending on the Mark variant. This was the one with the cannons and missile pods.
Just run.
And apparently, to our surprise, it was the final boss for the operation.
Oh,
run!
So, he modified its stats. It not only had its normal health, but its armor was 4 times stronger than the normal model was in the game statistics. So everyone struggled. A good chunk of us struggled to try and neutralize the grizzly for a while. I ended up giving up on that after dying twice, and I joined the smaller group that was locating the rest of the fucking space nukes. And
think of it this way. Think of it this way. At least it wasn't a scarab.
Why don't you just confiscate one of the space nukes and use it on it?
No, we're not allowed to do that. And plus, the space nukes, they're not just a model in the mod. They are actual weapons that you can use, and their blast radius would have leveled the entire city. That's just the small one. The big
Acceptable
one,
casualties.
the big one would have wiped out half the map.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. But the second mission ended with us resecuring all the nukes and stomping out a good portion of the insurrection, although there was still a sizable presence. We just kind of cut the head off of the Hydra and we're waiting, and we're ordered to stand by as reinforcements came. Now we get to the third, final, and my favorite session of all. We're playing ODSTs again. Well, half of us are ODSTs, the other half are standard colonial marines. And we're sent to this planet. Pretty standard stuff. This is post Halo 1, but still, it's still the Human Covenant War, but the UNSC is still also dealing with the insurrection. And this is an insurrection planet where an unauthorized shipping freighter got shot down in orbit, and the town that it landed near has gone completely silent. No radio traffic from anyone.
Don't tell me there was a flood on board.
Shish. Essentially, so our flagship dropped a pod of ODSTs to scout out the area. They went completely silent 2 hours later. Well, it's the insurrection. They're still there. But we drop in, and we start fighting the insurrection after our elephant had a misfortunate Arma 3 experience where something tapped it, it decided to flip over, and while flipping exploded. But my squad consisted of one of my good friends, CRW, as our squad lead / combat medic. I was second in command, and we had like 8 other people with us, so we had a pretty good squad of 10. We mount up on some Humvees, and we decide to try and flank the city that we were attacking from its left side. Everyone else was either charging it head on or going towards the right, so we decided to branch off and try something different. We ended up running right into an insurrectionist roadblock that had a gun turret warthog that they stole. We neutralized that, and we're just holding position, waiting to get orders to continue our flanking maneuver, and then we get swarmed by humans infected by flood spores.
Of course.
Yeah, there's the flood.
There we go.
We fucking stomped those guys out after 2 of us got infected and hit the fucking yeet juice to try and cure themselves.
At this point,
They died.
Lost the city.
No, we'll get to that in a bit. That comes later. We ended up, it's fine. We neutralized the outpost, and all of what we suspected were just a small number of flood-infected people that probably crawled their way out of the wreckage of the ship. They hadn't infected anyone else yet. We move up, and we come to this small little villa, about 3 or 4 apartment complexes next to each other. And so we split into teams of 2. We clear every single building. Everything's fine. And then we get fucking swarmed by a massive flood infected.
Of course.
Which kind of flood infected? What form was it?
Basically, they were essentially, because we don't have the proper flood zombies, we were using zombies from a Exile mod, so they were just very fast boys and very angry boys. But we got swarmed, and our squad got wiped. We respawn at the base, and we get more vehicles. The town that we were assaulting is now under siege by the rest of our troops, and we get ordered over the radio to try and locate the missing ODST squad. Or the recon team.
Zone, I can imagine what to them.
Well, we had strict orders. This was also a Oni-headed operation.
Cool.
So, again, no witnesses.
I hate Oni
And
with a
we
passion.
found the last known town that the ODSTs had radioed from. We clear out a good portion of insurrection. More of them come as we're moving up into the town, so we got split. Me and another guy ended up on a rooftop, got pinned down by a marksman, died again, so we brought in a helicopter to assist and try and extract people. And the rest of the squad ended up getting held up in the hospital, where they located 3 out of the 4 ODSTs. Basically, we recovered their bodies, we gathered up all the dead insurrectionists, started burning theirs with thermite, and essentially, all went well for a while.
For a
And in
while.
the main town, I took no part of the fighting in the main city. Apparently, the 4 groups that were attacking the main city had a hell of a time because there were way more insurrectionists than they originally planned because we had 2 guys playing Zeus that were controlling the amount of enemy spawns, and one squad kept complaining that they were having too easy of a time and they couldn't figure out which squad that was, so they kept spawning more enemies everywhere. To the point to where there were more enemies than players. And then the flood came.
Of course it did.
Apparently, a detachment of the insurrectionists that were coming in to reinforce the city got infected.
Oh.
And so the zombies started fighting everybody. Now, granted, we didn't plan... The people that were spawning in enemies didn't plan that. They just spawned in a group of hostiles with insurrectionist gear and gave the AI the order to move into the city so that they would eventually fan out and start attacking. They got intercepted by a few zombies. Apparently, they neutralized the zombies, but a few of them got infected. And then by the time they reached the city, they were all infected. So essentially, it came to the point to where it was too difficult for us to continue, and they kind of just had everyone respawn at the base. We sat there and we watched as the city got hit by the big nuke. To the point to where it crashed. I think it crashed one of the Zeus players.
Oh, that.
Just a slight crash.
Where's Rasmus when you need him? Just bring in the Shadow of Intent and glass the fucker.
So is that the conclusion of that particular story?
Oh, that's that one is my favorite.
I can see.
Mainly because we watched the city get fucking glassed.
Right. Well, the reason I bring it up is because we are
We're out of time.
We're 3 minutes over time. I was just waiting for you to wrap that one up before we called it. So thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, so much for tuning in to this episode of Jibber Jabber. We will see you next time. Until then, keep listening, people. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Hoorah!
The flood is scary.